Hey everybody, Gilbert signing in here. We're still in Unit 4. Now we're looking at Lesson 5. You should have already watched the video, but the focus here is writing classes and instance methods. So in the last lesson, we were able to write a class. That class returned a particular object. So now what we want to do is think about, all right, well, what are some behaviors that that object might have? So for example, when we are talking about a rectangle, we can find the area of a rectangle. We can find the perimeter of a rectangle. And so our rectangle class can actually not only have a constructor for a specific object called a rectangle, but it can have, we can write these instance methods that allow us to kind of call on that behavior. Alrighty, so notice here it says, write your own public method for the rectangle class to calculate the perimeter. The function should be called getPerimeter and should return an int, and the perimeter of a rectangle is the sums of the lengths of each side. And I'll show you two different ways in which we can write that when we get there. All right, so let's see what we have in our rectangle or in our in our rectangle class. We have our private width and height. We've got the rectangle constructor that assigns its parameters to that width and height. We now have this get area. So the get area will return the width times the height. We can return the height. We can return the width. We have our string, which we can ask it to return. And so now what we want to do is create another public int called get perimeter. Okay. And so in that, what we have to do is calculate basically the perimeter. So what are we going to do? Well, we are going to return. And how do we calculate that perimeter? So you have a couple of ways of doing this. Let me do this as a comment. So we can do 2 times width plus 2 times height. That's one way of writing it. We can also do the width plus the width plus the height plus the height. All right, obviously one method is a little more concise than the other one. The only question here when we are working with something like this is it always going to calculate properly? Technically, we should be doing multiplication before addition, and so we may or may not need to utilize parentheses here. I personally am always a fan of parentheses, right? Parentheses are going to group things in such a way that forces the math to happen the way that it should. And so we do that. And now if I go into the rectangle tester, I first need to create a new rectangle. Okay. So if I come back, and if I don't remember how to do it, I can come back and look at what they did for area. So let's do that just to kind of go through this process. So here they created this rectangle 1 equals new rectangle with the width and a height. So let's do that. Rectangle. So I call the constructor, I name the instance. Oh, that's not fair. didn't save it. So rectangle, and then we'll call it R1 equals new rectangle. I have a width and a height, so let's make it easy. So let's do 10 and 5. And I can print that out. If I hit run, got an error back here. Need a semicolon. Okay, Control Z. No. Now if I hit run, dot print, and guess I forgot my parentheses. Run. All right, here we go. And yes, I do intentionally sometimes make some of these mistakes because I just want to demonstrate that troubleshooting process of kind of what you have to go through. All right, so I can now print out my height and my width. Great. Now I need to, if I go back to my exercise, I need to get my get perimeter. So again, if I don't remember what it looks like, I can go back and look at my example here. And here is what they did. So they did system.out.println, and then they gave whatever words they wanted, and then it's the name of the object, the instance object, and the name of our instance method. Okay. So hopefully it didn't lose all that. Perfect. So if I do system.out.println, I do like the perimeter is space concatenate, and then I'm doing the name of my object, of my instance object, and then the name of my instance method. So it's get perimeter. And let's hit run and see if it works. Alrighty, so I keep forgetting my semicolons. All right, let's hit run. That was an easy enough fix, and there we have it. So let's hit check code. And there we go. We can submit and continue on to the next bubble. So in 4.5.6, we're going to take our student class that we created earlier, and we want to add a method called isHonorsStudent. And basically what we need to do is we're going to end up using a Boolean. If the student's GPA is greater than 3.5, we will return a true. All right, so let's go. Alrighty, so here we have our students, and if we look at our Java class, we have a set GPA, okay, and the GPA. So we set GPA equal to the GPA. So this is a little different how we did it before. Before we added it as a parameter, all right, but here we're actually adding it basically as a new instance method. All right. Now, what we are going to do, so we have our constructor. Check out the student tester to see an example of how to use this constructor. So if we go here, all right, we have these set GPAs, so we hit run. All right, so we can see that it prints out their names, it prints out their grade. It does not print out the GPA. So we want a public Boolean is honors student. All right, so if we go here and so I'm going to do public Boolean. And we're calling it is honors student. And we're going to say if GPA is greater than or equal to 3.5, need parenthesis there. That's not what I wanted. Okay. If our GPA is greater than 3.5, we are going to return true. Alrighty, so we added our method. I think that's what we wanted to do there. I believe we can also do this one other way. We can say return GPA greater than or equal to 3.5. 3.5. So there's two different ways we can write it. We can write it just as a regular return where we're looking at that conditional, but we should also be able to do it as an if statement. So if I run code, we need, not gonna, well, I can do it there, I guess. So let's try that. There we go. So I guess it's looking for the return statement. All right, let's do this. And let me code out that. Because it's not recognizing the code within our thing. All right, so now it runs. So it needed that return method outside of that if statement. So it looks like I can't use that particular method, which is where I would have probably gone to first, and I suspect most of you guys would go to first. So if I hit check, that's it. So we don't have to go any further than that. We don't have to do anything in our student tester. All right. That was pretty easy. All right. Bubble 7. So it says the full triangle class. It says write a class triangle. A triangle should have a height and a width like a rectangle and needs getter methods for both. We'll also need a constructor method and a method to calculate the area. The constructor should take the width as the first argument, the height as the second. We want to create two getter methods called get width, get height. We should also create a get area, which calculates the area. And it gives us the area formula for the triangle, 1/2 the base times the height. And it tells us that the height and width should be ints, and the get area should be a double. Okay. So again, I'm going to click on that because there's a lot to this particular exercise. Right now I'm in the tester. I'm going to go into the actual triangle class. Okay. So again, we want a couple of privates. We need a private int height. We need a private int width. We need a public triangle with an int tri width and an int tri height. And my width is going to equal my tri width, and my height is going to equal my tri height. That's all I need there. Okay, now I need 3 other methods. I need a public int get height. And all I'm going to do is return height. I need a public, apparently I can't spell. I'm trying to do it too fast. That's supposed to be an int. Int get width. I'm going to return my width. And then I need a public double get area. And this is where I need to return. And this is kind of a long thing with lots of symbols and stuff in it. So I'm actually going to put this all into parentheses. So I need half the width times the height. Well, half can also be represented as 0.5. And it's good form to do 0.5 and not just 0.5 times the width times height. Okay, and that is that. We check our code and everything works. In this case, you could have gone into the tester to do it, but you don't need the tester to move on. And so that is that. All right. So batting average, right? This is for those of you who are sports fans, and it's also just to give you an idea of, all those numbers and all those statistics that you guys depend on. Somebody's creating programs that grabs the data, manipulates the data, spits out an answer, and that's how you get all these, cool statistics and stuff like that in your apps or different programs that you might be looking at, different websites that might be gathering this information to help people make decisions, all that good stuff. So we have this baseball player class. It stores the number of hits and the number of at-bats. And we're going to extend this class by writing a method to calculate the player's batting average. So we want get batting average. That is calculated by the number of hits divided by the number of at-bats. Okay, so again, I'll open that exercise up so I have it. Right now we're in the tester. We're going to go into the baseball player class. We have hits, at bats, and the player's name. We have a public baseball player with all that information. We have a string that gets returned, and they've already created the get batting average. And we were told that it is the number of hits divided by the number of at bats. So we're going to do return. And then again, I'm putting a bunch of stuff together, so I'm going to put it in parentheses. So we want to return the hits divided by at bats. Alrighty. So it gives us those two pieces. Let's see, do we have to actually do it in the tester? Alrighty, so remember that we are taking integers, but when we divide, okay, an int divided by an int, it's going to truncate the decimal, so we're getting a 0. So remember that we need to come in here and cast either the numerator or the denominator to a double. Beautiful. And that's it. That's all you had to do. So a lot of these are actually pretty quick. It actually takes me longer to explain it oftentimes than if I was just doing it. Alrighty, so here we're going back to that geolocation class that we did in the last unit. We have a distance from kilometers. So this is a new constant to help you up at the top called km underscore per underscore mile. This method should return the distance from the current object to the geolocation object that's passed to this parameter. Okay, so we have all our information being stored. If we go into here, so you're writing a new method. So you're going to come in here and come down. Right now you're getting the distance from. So you're going to be using what you get from that. So you would just come down here and create a new method. And it's taking the parameter geolocation other. So that is the parameter it is taking. And what are we returning? You're going to return distance from other, times km per mile. So that km per mile, if you come up to the top here, is right here. All right, so that's a constant. And if we check our code, that is public. We may need to cast to a double. Out of scope. km per mile. Let's see if I spelled it right. Oh, it's all caps. Okay. Distance from in kilometers is already defined. Oh, there it is. I didn't realize it was already defined. Okay. So I guess we can Control C. Control V. And we can delete this. I didn't realize it was already written in there. All right, now let's try checking the code. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so, it's kind of hard because sometimes they put it in there already, sometimes they don't. So you just want to, check your code and stuff if on occasion. All right, that wraps up lesson 5. So not too bad. It really is, again, it's just about knowing what your variables are and understanding how to create methods within that class that actually represent the behaviors of those methods. Alrighty, Gilbert signing out.